Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new, fresh episode of Three Things with JR. You made it. You're here. You're back. I made it. I'm here. I'm back. It has been a minute since I had sat down at this desk and recorded an episode. It's not been that long. It's just a couple weeks, but I took some time off. I went to Florida. I got to hang out with my mom and my sister, some cousins, just a great week of not working and hanging out with people I love and playing disc golf. That's kind of like when I'm not hanging out with my mom or my sister and I'm in Florida, what I'm doing is I'm either going out to play disc golf somewhere or I'm watching disc golf on TV. Because while I was in Florida, the greatest shot in disc golf history happened. And I got to see it, and I got to show Mom and my sister Aubrey, and neither one of them were really all that interested. They are into playing disc golf kind of casually, just learning the game, but it is a pretty great time to be a fan of disc golf. I am playing it more than ever, watching it more than ever. The greater things are happening with disc golf than ever before, and maybe will ever happen again. If you haven't seen the James Conrad holy shot from the hole 18 of the final round of the World Championship, then you need to Google that shit and watch it, because it is an unbelievable shot. And if you watch it and you see it and you think that doesn't look like that big a deal, let me assure you as a disc golfer that what he did, no matter when he did it, if he did it on his own with nobody watching, it would be an amazing feat to throw the disc as far as he did and put it in the basket. But the fact that it happened with all of the pressure of, you know, if he puts this disc in the basket, he's got a chance to win the tournament, and if he doesn't, he's second place. It's the difference, right? It is all of the pressure with thousands of people watching live, 1,400-ish people watching live on the internet, all the other disc golf fans, myself included, watching it at home, and he does it. He gets the job done and forces a playoff and wins he's a world champion now because of this one incredible shot. Featured on Sports Center. It was a big deal. So if you missed that, go check it out. James Conrad, look for the holy shot, and you won't have to look very hard to find it. And the coolest thing about that is that the week after that happened, so that happened last weekend of June, and the first weekend of July. I'm recording this Monday night, July 5th, so this last weekend, July 3rd and 4th, I was scheduled to, and I did, go play in a disc golf tournament at James Conrad's dad's house. And how cool was that, getting to talk to James Conrad's mom and dad about him, what he's doing next, and play disc golf in a pretty cool tournament. I took third place in my division, amateur master 40s, 40 and up. So I'm playing with all, 40 to 49-year-old people, and I did pretty good. So it's been wonderful being in the world of disc golf. That's almost all I can think about. I have certainly been thinking about this podcast and what we're going to do here tonight on this first podcast back from vacation. And here's what we're doing. I definitely called somebody out of the blue. They had no idea I would be calling or why. And the person I called is Cody Osbourne. He is the younger brother to my girlfriend, Kiki Osbourne. I have met Cody in person one time. Kiki and I went to D.C. where he's in the music business. He's a stage manager, road manager for different music touring acts, different bands, different artists. At the time, he was backstage for Galantis, which is like a DJ type duo. And we got to see him work. We got to eat dinner with him. We got to hang out in the VIP section and just have an amazing time. And I just enjoyed talking with Cody. We talked about music and podcasts and all that stuff. And I haven't talked to him other than one Zoom call with Kiki and Cody and their parents. That's it. That's all I've ever interacted with Cody Osbourne. But he does a job that is incredibly interesting to me, that I would love to be doing, in general, backstage in the music business. Whether you're a roadie, whether you're driving a van, whether you're setting up the soundboard, whether you're rigging lights. I don't know if I would want to climb and rig lights, but you're to be part of the crew that makes a concert or show or performance happen. That's what he does, and it's a lot of fun. I could have talked to him about that for hours, and if we weren't recording a podcast, I imagine if we were just hanging out, that's what we would do, as long as he's willing to talk about it. So that's what we did. We talked about that. We talked about him and Kiki growing up a little bit. Found out a little tidbit, a little juicy nugget about Kiki that I did not already know. If she's already told me, I forgot, and I'm a horrible boyfriend. If she didn't tell me, there's a reason she didn't tell me. And Cody and I speculated about that a little bit here in our chat. So I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to have to listen to it for that. But you're going to hear us talk about. So Cody currently is employed by Lana Del Ray, and so she's not currently touring because she hasn't been for a while now because of the pandemic, has not resumed touring yet, is in the studio, according to Cody, and he is employed by her when she's on the road as well as when she's not on the road. So he's a road manager when she's on the road and a personal assistant type of deal when she's not. And I just called him out of the blue at about 9 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock his time. He lives out in L.A. So, and he answered, and I think he was surprised. And I told him why I was calling, and he says, all right, let's do this. And so that's what happened. Cody and me talking about the music business, Kiki, and yes, he comes up with 3 amazing things. So all of that coming up after the break.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. There's no time for play. Get up, get up, get up. It's a brand new day.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey. How you doing, Cody?
Doing all right. What's going on?
So I'm calling you to put you on my podcast.
Dangerous.
Dangerous? Oh, good. That's what I'm hoping for.
What's going on? What's the topic?
So there's no necessarily a topic. What I've been doing on my podcast the past couple months is calling people I haven't talked to or seen in a long time, either because of the pandemic or geography or both or for whatever reason, and people that are interesting. And also, since I'm just calling people out of the blue, people that answer and are willing to talk to me. And I've been telling Kiki I'm going to try to call you. She's like, I don't know if he's ever going to answer. I don't know if he's going to want to do it. I'm like, so I figured I saw you were online on Facebook. It popped up with your name in green for half a second, literally 5 minutes ago. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try it and see what happens.
Right on, man.
So
let's do it.
Right on. So really, the point of this is just to chit chat, talk, see what's going on. I'm interested in what's happening in your life, whatever you're willing to tell me. And then I'm going to ask you to do 3 things, which it's called 3 Things with JR. So, but that'll be later. Don't worry about that. You have so much more hair than the last time I saw you in person.
I haven't cut it.
The entire pandemic?
Yeah.
So since March of last year, no hair cutting.
Before that even, I started. And then once the pandemic hit, I was all in. It was probably 5 or 6 months before that I hadn't cut my hair. And then,
wow.
Yeah, so it's been a year and a half at least.
Have you ever had long hair like that before?
Not this long. It's probably about this long I've had it, and a few times had it that long, but never pushed through to really let it come out.
And you don't hate it yet?
Oh, no.
No?
No. I'm never cutting it again.
This is
beard I'm thinking of trimming up. This is newish in terms of I've let this go the last like 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And that's a little like more cumbersome and like something that like, I deal with that I'm not like totally into, I guess, but I like it.
It's two totally different colors of hair. Do you do anything to any of it, or is that just how it comes out?
The way we are, man. Blonde and red.
Yeah. Is it kind of a red? I would say I would call it more of a brown beard with very blonde hair.
It's definitely red in the beard. I mean, it looks maybe a little brown on camera here,
Yeah.
and it's not the red, but it's definitely red. And I was a redhead when I was born, so.
Oh, no kidding! I didn't know that. Are either of your parents gingers? I don't think so.
No.
Huh? Where does that come from then?
And I don't think Kiki was born with red hair either. So.
So you just lucked out.
Just a mystery, man.
And red hair typically is associated with like a fiery personality, but I don't get that from you. Do you see yourself that way?
Depends on the day and hour. But generally not.
So the last time we talked was early on in the pandemic. We were on Zoom or whatever with your parents and Kiki, and it was a thing. And you were like holed up in some like basement apartment with no amenities or something like that. And how's pandemic life now? I mean, now that the pandemic is slowly fading away.
Yeah. So I wasn't in that place too long, thankfully, and it wasn't terrible, but I probably was there for 6 or 8 months, and then around January or maybe December of last year, moved to a new spot, which is like above ground.
Nice. Moving up in the world.
And and a functional apartment, like fully functional. So things are much better. It was fine before, but it's better now.
Gotcha. And I presume we don't want to talk about more specifically where you live?
I mean, Los Angeles. I was on the east side. I'm now in like kind of the heart of Hollywood now.
Cool. Do you take advantage of that? Do you go explore Hollywood at all? Do you go hang out? What do you do?
I mostly hang out with these guys.
Aw, kitty cats.
There's another one right here.
2 cats?
And then we got this girl here.
And a German Shepherd.
And we have that guy.
Another German Shepherd. That's a lot, man. The cats and the dogs get along okay, huh?
Yeah, it's an animal house. It's been a year of working on it, but it's here right now. Let's see, can I flip this? There we go. This is about as bad as it gets right here. She'll chase him for a second and then forget about it.
Do the cats put the dog in their place?
They can. They're capable of. Here you go again. Look at all this fun stuff going on.
Oh, nice.
So she used to want to like eat them. Now she just sort of like, nibbles and licks.
Uh-huh.
And we tell her she's a good girl. Good girl.
That's adorable. I could not. We couldn't even entertain the idea of having a cat at this house.
Well, it just takes time, you know. I mean, they were just crazy when we first tried to do it, you know. And just a little bit, and over a year, they eventually figure out that, you know, everybody needs to live. And
my dog Scherzer has killed 3 cats that I know of. Like murdered them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like his job. Like I think he feels like his mission in life is to kill them, grab them, snap their necks, and leave them for dead.
That's fun.
Yeah, he doesn't even bring them back to the doorstep as a trophy or anything like that. He just wants to kill. Like that's what he wants. He wants 2 things in life: to hang out with me and to kill cats and squirrels and whatever else he can find.
Everyone needs a passion.
That's right. He definitely has his.
Yeah.
So, music business coming back?
I guess so.
I mean,
I guess.
can you talk about what you do here on a podcast?
Yeah. I mean, for me, everything's kind of slowed down a lot this last year. Before COVID, I was doing music tours, and my main gig was with Lana Del Ray,
Yeah.
her road manager, and we have not played any shows this year. We don't have anything scheduled.
Still don't,
There-
because a lot of people are announcing shows now. Is Lana Del Rey hasn't resumed?
Yeah, she's not in a hurry. Doesn't seem to be, and yeah, we're just taking it as it goes. You know, I'm sure something will come out eventually, and she'll get back out there. But I don't know if it'll be this year.
So when
Let's see.
she's not,
she's in the studio.
oh, in the studio. Okay, nice.
Yeah, she's put out one record, and now she's in the studio and got singles out and doing a couple more. I mean, she still has, stuff going on. She's had some promo things happen, and just general, like, helping her out with stuff. Has been kind of, like, in need of around here. So, personal assistant kind of is where I'm at these days. But if she goes back out again, I'll resume my road management title and carry on.
So you've been able to find something to do that she finds valuable enough to keep you around even when she's not performing.
Yeah.
Hell, that'll work.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Sounds like a good gig if you can get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it took a few years to, get to this point. But,
right. So the only time I met you in person was you were backstage at Galantis. Is that the name? The DJ guys?
Yeah.
That was a crazy night.
It was a crazy night.
I totally dig being backstage. Like I play drums. I'm sort of the equipment manager for our band, right? I mean, I think if I could go back in time and pick a job, if I couldn't be a professional musician, I think I would be some sort of roadie on the crew backstage doing that stuff, because that just energized me. Like, just seeing all that stuff and being involved in all of that stuff. Like, did you aspire to do that? Like, did you have the same thoughts when you were young? Like, is that what you were shooting for, or what?
Well, first I'll say there's still time for you, bro. There's
Yeah.
a lot of old people still on the road.
Yeah, but can you start being a roadie at 46 years old, or?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
For sure. There's always a tour. I mean, you may not start at the top,
Right.
but you could definitely get in if you wanted to do teching. Anybody could. It's not a difficult industry to break into. It's hard to, like, necessarily get, like, really good jobs, maybe, but again, if you are skilled enough, like, the cream comes to the top, as they say, or
Sure.
something.
Do roadies make decent money, or is that not a high paying job?
They can, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep, depending on, who you're roadieing for. I mean, there's a lot of guitar techs, I think, on tours that are one of the highest paid crew members,
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, these guitar players who have a tech they've had forever. So that's part of their,
Right.
right. And as far as my dreams being in the music industry, I mean, I was a musician too, played in bands growing up with friends. Like, that's all I ever wanted to do, and still all I ever want to do. Like, play music with my friends. There's nothing like that, you know?
Yeah.
But and I had no concept of the music industry outside of local punk rock shows. Like, that was music to me. Was, like, I kind of knew the other world was out there.
Yeah.
But I never went to, like, a big arena concert or, like, anything, like, mainstream like that. And probably the first concert I ever went to that was anything was Lollapalooza '97, I want to say.
Okay.
So this was like the Beastie Boys, Smashing Pumpkins. Nirvana was supposed to play that year, but Kurt killed himself just before. This is Lollapalooza '94 is what it was.
I was gonna say I thought it was a little bit earlier than that, but yeah.
Yeah, killed himself in '93. '94 was the Lollapalooza that first one. And then I graduated in '97. So
when you go to a concert like that, that's clearly different than a punk band in a small grungy club, right? Like that's a whole different vibe.
And even that back in the day was completely new to America. Like America didn't have festivals or things like that, really. Like not like Europe did.
Not like on an ongoing basis, like a regular thing. Yeah, they were
forever.
Right.
Like yeah, exactly. So this was, and especially for alternative music, in that time period, there was nothing for those type of bands to like promote themselves. So that was a little bit. It was. I definitely recognized it as something not, small and local and something that was, corporatized and all of that. I could see that was going on,
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I didn't love that concert. It was cool to be there because it was my first big show and everything. But it wasn't like, it wasn't the feeling that I got once I started to go to local punk rock shows and see these bands that I loved and like appreciate it, and so, I mean, I never had any concept of what a roadie was or a crew or what a tour was even. Like that wasn't in my the biggest shows other than that I went to in Chicago were at the Metro. Like that was the biggest show that I would go to. And that was fine. There weren't bands that I liked that played bigger venues than the Metro back then,
Is the Metro like a theater or club or what?
Sorry. Metro is a club, I guess. I would say it's probably about it's one of the popular places in Chicago for sure. Like some of your listeners, I'm sure, will know it. It's probably a 2,000 person maybe.
Okay, yeah, that's significant.
2,000-3,000. But that was definitely the big spot in town, like that I would go to, and then got into photography and video because I started rollerblading and jumping on handrails and going to skate parks and stuff like that, and so we had to make videos of ourselves,
Yeah, that's a requirement for doing that. I mean, if nobody gets to see it, what's the point?
It doesn't. Exactly. And I mean, and it was fun to do back then. And so that was what kind of got me into that. And it's what made me kind of decide to go to film school in Columbia, downtown Chicago. And, but then I only spent about a year and a half there. And eventually, 10 years later, moved out to LA, expecting to be in film out here. Got on film sets and just had a miserable time. Like one after the other was just like, this is awful. Like the people are awful. The pay is awful. The unions are terrible.
Oh, wow.
Like it was just like, trying to like break in without any connections is just fucking painful.
Yeah.
So ended up taking some work in the live music industry, just driving a van, being a runner. And ended up being like way better people. The pay was better, and like just stuck with that and took as many jobs as I could until it didn't take a year before I was on the road. And my first tour was Rihanna Diamonds tour, I think.
Oh wow, no kidding.
Yeah, and then went into Drake after that. Rolling Stones not too far along after that one. Did stuff with Lady Gaga, but and these are all like minimal like production like gigs, you know, like
Okay.
production events and like that sort of thing, or driving a van. But
So you're like mainly doing like just grunt work, like moving shit from the van out to the venue, setting stuff up, putting a speaker
yep.
in, plugging it in, that kind of stuff.
I mean, even it's moving crews and people, you know, from hotels for because you have rehearsals for 3 months, you know,
Yeah.
and so the sort of basic day is driving to the hotel with a 12-passenger van, picking up a full crew of people, maybe making a few rounds to get, because there's probably 50 or 60 people on the crew, so you might have to do a couple rounds to the hotel, and then all day, literally, and this is from 7 a.m. at least until, I mean, you're leaving past midnight most days. You know, you're there all day. So after you get the crew there, you're running errands. There's runners lists and like a million things that people need and want. You got the petty cash, and you got to like make it happen. You know.
Yeah.
You got to get food. Like there's always meals everybody needs to eat. That's always like, you know, madness and can be like crazy. And then at the end of the day, you're dropping everybody off back at the hotel and then getting back up 5 hours later and doing it again, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like with no days off until the tour. And then the tour, you have no day. Well, you kind of have days off like built in, you know, with like days off and stuff like travel days and things.
Right.
But generally, those tours are so much trying to pinch pennies and make money that the crew is just really like worked to the bone, you know, and wrung out every single penny they can out of everybody.
So this is not a family person's job.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's usually a person's job.
I went into the family life pretty early, and I really, if I had it to do over again, I would be, maybe not for very long, but I would be very happy doing exactly what you just described, like transporting people, running errands, and, you know, feeling like you're important to making the show happen because, I mean, without you, the support is really necessary.
Yeah, well, and I mean, sometimes I would say, you know, a lot of the times you are appreciated in that more so than I found in the film world out here, you know, and so that's why I did stick around and keep taking the gigs. Like I like the people, and you know, it just worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you move up from doing errands and running people around and stuff. Then what? Then are you on the stage, in the arena, in whatever venue it is?
Yeah. Again, like production assisting, you know, like once you're on the tour, you know, you're either helping, like I was at least like helping the production manager, and yeah, you have a few jobs maybe on the tour, and again, like I wasn't a specific tech to anybody, so like for instance, with Rihanna, like I did backstage, which, you know, involves setting up her whole dressing room, which is like a whole thing. With furniture and drapes and, you know, the full thing. And this is like every venue you got to do this. I did backstage. I was like the second drum tech, but I'd never drum tech before. But, you know, you learn how to put together what they have, you know, that specific job, and like takes a couple times, and then like eventually it's clockwork. But it's super intense during the show, like, you know, taking stuff up, putting it away, getting what you need, like. And then I think
I want to stop you right there and talk about that. Right, as a drummer, I know how I want my drums set up, right, but I'm not even perfect at setting my drums up the exact same way every single time. Like, how do you guys do that? Like, how are you able to make sure that the drum set is exactly right every time?
Gaff tape.
Yeah.
Like markers and stuff to where the points go. You know, like if you're sliding in and out the legs, or like the position of things, like sometimes you'll have markers on it with tape. But it is definitely mostly repetition. You know, and like figuring out if the drummer's pissed off that something wasn't right, then you change that next time. And,
yeah.
You know, like life goes on. But again, I was the second drum tech, so like, you know, I had a guy there that would help me out if I needed it. And so, and then, yeah, I mean, my other thing was, I think I had to do barricade on Rihanna. So that was another, like the barricade that's right in front of the stage, you know?
Yeah.
That comes on the truck. Like we carried that the whole tour. So like, you know, that was always a huge, as soon as the show ends, like my job was to get 20 crew of people breaking down all those barriers.
You talking about the
like,
metal railings that look like a bike rack?
That's right. Yeah.
So those travel with the musician. They're not provided by the venue?
It depends. A lot of venues have it, but for a tour like the Rihanna tour, for the top end tours like that, they carry their own barricade.
No kidding.
Just so everything is exactly the same every single time, you know.
Yeah.
And and at the end of the day, I'm sure it just comes down to money, you know, like and whatever expense was figured, you know, trying to source locally versus carrying with us, you know, for the 2 years of the tour or whatever. It was just cheaper to like,
because you might not be able to guarantee you'll be able to rent those every place you go. So you just carry it with you and never have to worry about it.
Yep. Yeah. One less thing to have to figure out locally. Yep. And then Drake, I did backstage for him. And that was it. So that was a little bit more like focused. And then
I think I've seen video of your mother on stage with Drake. Like, how did you make that happen?
So
does your mother know who Drake is?
Now she does.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Drake was when I joined the tour, but this is his first. That was his first big solo tour. Yeah. Headlining tour. So like, you know, I give myself a pass. Like I didn't know how big he was going to be at that point. But he was big at that point, but I wasn't in tune to that world at all.
Right.
So they had a shtick where Drake would bring up an older person, an older woman, to serenade for the crowd at a certain song. I forget what the song is now, but there was a guy, one of the guys in his crew was like in charge of picking like the person at every stop. And in Chicago, my parents came early, and I was showing them around and taking them whatever backstage and stuff, and we ran into this guy, and I introduced my parents to him, and he goes, "You think she should be on stage tonight?" And I realized like what he's talking about. I'm like, hell yeah, 100%. And she's like, what? Like, what's going on? Don't worry, you know, it'll be fine. And that was how it happened. So that was cool.
So so you don't necessarily get to choose the bands you're going to be on the crew for, right? Like,
you technically you can say no to anybody, right?
Yeah.
But like when these, you know, like at the time, you know, these were hot tickets and like, you know, seemed like good opportunities, and I think they were. But yeah, I mean, it depends on your situation. There's plenty of people that say no to all kinds of people, you know, like, and a lot of times it's just people who are established and they already have their bread and butter, you know.
I'm just wondering if it would be annoying to have to be on the crew or whatever for like a musician or artist that you just like, you can't stand their music.
I don't think so. You know, like, I mean, I'm not a big Rihanna fan of all the pop stars, or a big Drake fan either. I would say I like Drake's music less than Rihanna's. But it's such a small part of your day, you know, the hour and a half or 2 hour show,
right?
You know, and for the most part, you're not, unless you're on stage being a tech, you're not even really like seeing the show anyway. Most of the time you're backstage or outside the venue or doing other stuff, you know, like you're just hearing like a thumping in the walls that it could be anything, you know. So I think maybe in smaller tours, like smaller, bands and like smaller venues and stuff, that might be a more like, pressing issue
Right.
about the music or listening to. But in those big shows, everything just sort of blends, and like and it's just sort of the people who you're with, the crew, and everything else is paramount.
And are most roadies employees or contractors?
All contractors, independent.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's just normally how it works.
Yeah, so I worked for a company, a production company, for a few years, where he basically tried, and this is when I was with Galantis. Like he would, like I basically got paid through him, and then he would like push me out to whatever like acts he needed me to go to, and then charge them whatever like rate on top of that. But that's like, there isn't many production companies if any besides his that are trying to do that, because everybody can be independent. There really isn't like a big use for that. For me, I thought that it would kind of get me into a couple places that I might not be able to otherwise, but in the end, like it probably wasn't like the best decision,
Yeah.
But it was fun.
So it's better to be a contractor, like for both you and the employer, or?
I mean, it's just sort of the way it works out, because everything is like piecemeal together so much in the industry.
And
It's not like any other business I've ever seen.
it doesn't sound like it. What about unions? Are you like part of a union? Is that a big deal? Like what's up with unions?
Unions are a thing for local like places, so whenever you get your crew, a lot of times that's a unionized crew, which I'll say I'm definitely a proponent of unions and the ideas behind what they are and what they stand for. In practice, they don't always live up to the hype, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like it can be frustrating for people who like me, who are just willing to do whatever, and like they won't get off their ass to plug in one thing into the wall because this other guy is supposed to do it, and like that's like the classic union problem. But like it's just like in spades, so so it's frustrating, but
Yeah.
at the same time, like I get it, and that's that's what it is. But there's no unions at like the crew level at all. Like people have tried to do that type of stuff, but that doesn't exist. I don't know how you, but maybe there's a way.
All right, let's shift gears now and talk about Kiki a little bit. What can you tell me about Kiki that I don't already know, but I should know?
I mean, at this point, man, this might be a better question for me to ask you.
Well, obviously, I spend more time with her these days than you do. I'm thinking about stuff from her childhood, things like that. Like when you guys growing up, things like that.
But as a kid, she was really into horses.
Oh, really? Shocker. Was there ever anything else she was into? I mean, from what I can tell, Kiki is into horses and choir.
Choir, that's right. Yep.
Right?
It was choir and horses. Yep.
I think she was also into photography and still is on a very hobbyist level. But did you guys ever share that in common? You're being into photography at all?
So the thing with us is that when I was in 3rd grade and she was in 6th grade, because we're 3 years apart, we took horseback riding lessons one summer, and it was the first time either of us had been on a horse that I know of, and it was a couple weeks of lessons, and then at the end they did the show where you rode around in circles and they gave out the ribbons,
Yeah.
and admittedly I was on a much easier horse than she was, but I took 1st place, and she took third place, and I quit on top. He kept chasing. Hey, listen, like this is like maybe only a little bit hyperbole, but from that point on, I barely saw her ever, like period. You know, like she would come home from school and have my mom drive her to the barn.
Yeah.
And then when she turned 16 and could drive herself, like forget about it, you know.
So the one time you guys both participated in horses at the same time was the first time for both of you. The audio cut out a little bit, so I just want to make sure I caught all the details. You admit that your horse wasn't the hardest to deal with, and somehow you came in first place in your division, I presume.
Hold on. My horse was easier than her horse.
Right.
Yeah.
So she had a tougher job.
Yeah, more difficult. She was on butterscotch.
And she came in third place.
Yeah, I was on Georgia Brown, who was like a push button. And I took first place. She took third place.
Yeah. And so do you think she has an incredible drive to do what she does? Do you think it's motivated by trying by losing to Cody in
Hey, this might be the situation. I'm not saying it is or not.
She's gonna love that we're talking about this.
What's that?
She's gonna love that we're talking about this. This is great.
I don't know about that.
I told her when and if I were able to get you on the line for this, that I was absolutely we were gonna talk about her, and she's like, "Fine, that's fine. Talk about whatever." So we have permission to say whatever we want, so we're good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can come up with anything better than that, though. The fact that you beat her at a horse competition, that's pretty great.
Went out on top like Michael Jordan.
Yeah, one and done.
Out.
I like it. I'm not going to keep you much longer. I do want to finish this up with three things. When I do my podcast, I talk about three things, and it's whatever's on my mind at the time. When I do this, surprise somebody, I spring it on them. And so I'm going to ask you for three things. One, the first thing, tell me something deep or meaningful or, inspirational that you think of, that you've read, that you think about, an epiphany you've had, anything you can come up with in any way, shape, or form that even kind of remotely sounds like that.
Oh man, I've been reading too much philosophy lately.
Oh, so your dad's very into philosophy too. Are you listening to Philosophize This, the podcast that he is adamantly trying to get me to listen to?
I actually told them about that one.
So okay, got it.
Yeah, but it's just a very humbling area of study, I guess, and all those guys just going down one by one, it feels like all right, this guy's got it, oh wait, no, then this guy critique his stuff and he's got it. And so every time all their arguments and critiques are so convincing to me, it's hard to feel confident about knowing anything. So it's very humbling.
So
to learn about stuff that nobody knows.
So when you take in a bunch of information from multiple philosophers, is it harder to sort of figure out your path?
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if, I don't even know what my path is or how that stuff relates to it. But, I think thinking about things and talking about them and trying to understand them is really interesting.
So what you described was what you're reading or listening to, it kind of resonates with you, and then you'll read something that's maybe completely different or off that a little bit, and then all of a sudden that makes perfect sense too.
Each one of these guys, were alive at a specific time in history, and they put it in a way to that, that time period could really understand, maybe, and so so these guys are the smartest guys who ever lived, like, in terms of that sort of thing, thinking about thinking and why we're here. And so the different people coming along and putting their own stamp in their own time, like, you have to, I guess, take everything with a grain of salt, but also kind of realize that like the certain just little points and things that they bring up, like, are valuable to think about.
Are there new philosophies coming out, or is it all the same old philosophies repackaged?
I would say there's always new ideas, and people are always, crunching it in their head, and there's interesting people alive today that, still can carry the torch and have input, and I don't think it ever ends, and maybe we're not as smart as some of these people from the past. We may be more technologically advanced and yada yada, and everything looks better or newer or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was smarter or more intelligent or more thoughtful or whatever, in terms of, metaphysically speaking, I guess.
Interesting stuff. Boy, that got deep. Success, thing one. Yeah, you had no trouble with that. Thing number two, also pretty easy. Tell me what's inspiring you right now. It could be usually something from the art world, right? So music, books, TV, movies, anything like that. What's really got you motivated, inspired, whatever right now? What's inspiring you?
I mean, that's actually a tough one. What's inspiring? I think some of the same stuff we were just talking about is these days is what, kind of sparks my interest and inspires me to, go after some things and look more into things and that. So it definitely blends. I don't know how to make that a better answer.
All right. How about this? It must be how I'm asking this question, because when I think of my thing number two, when I'm doing it myself, it's whatever band I've been listening to a lot of. Like, I usually will pick like whatever band I start listening to, I'll listen to them for a week or two and, just dive deep, and then I'll kind of move on to a different band, like, stuff like that. I just literally 2 days ago found out a band I'd never heard of called Goose. And so I'm just listening to their stuff now, and they're kind of a totally different band than I would ever have listened to. I'm not a jam band sort of guy, right? Like, I'm not a Grateful Dead, Fish, Widespread Panic. I'm just that music's, generally speaking, doesn't do anything for me. But I was at a disc golf tournament where we had there was like a band playing that night, like the Saturday night, and it was camping, and it was a cool vibe. And this band is a jam band, and seeing a jam band live was amazing. And they covered a couple songs by this band named Goose, and everybody in the audience was like, "Oh, that's Goose." I'm like, "Who the hell is Goose?" So I've got them pulled up on Spotify now. I've been listening to them. I kind of get it now. Like, jam band music is all of a sudden not something that I just detest. I'm like, what? How did this even happen? And it was the live music experience that made it happen. And all of a sudden, I've got a new band.
Live music can do that, for music that I don't give a shit for. Like, live music can flip the switch, but it doesn't necessarily translate into me, going out and buying the record and thinking it's any good.
Right.
But good for you. I in terms of music, man, I am stuck in the 50s and 60s still a lot.
Okay.
And so, like, even that stuff is very inspirational for me, and still is. And that, like, I mean, I could never, ever, ever, ever get tired of that music. Like, I'll still listen to the songs, like girl groups and doo-wop and all that stuff, like on repeat in my car. So that's always a constant source of inspiration for me. And old punk bands and stuff that I listen to, I still like. I don't stop listening to that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely scratches the itch. I will say, on a slightly different plane. I still can't stop watching this. I can say is my favorite show of all time, and like I just rewatch it, and like it just never gets old to me. BoJack Horseman.
Nice.
Like that. I mean, the way they wrote that, the way it's performed, everything about it is just like, I like don't know if there's ever going to be a better show than that.
No kidding.
But we'll see.
I've seen like a couple episodes. I liked it. I got it. It was excellent. Just not. It didn't grab me enough where I like had to keep watching it.
Well, if you don't watch it literally from the beginning to the end, like it's a story. Like you can't start in the middle because everything's.
I definitely started it. I started watching it from the beginning. I would not have realized. I didn't watch it enough to realize that there was a story arc from the beginning of the first show to the end of the last show.
6 seasons, and it's literally an arc. It's from the beginning to the end, and the first few episodes are slow and it's tough to get into, so that makes sense. But once you get past like halfway, like the writers of it, I've watched so much stuff on YouTube afterwards, you know, like analyzing it and all this stuff, and like just stories about it. And apparently the writers kind of realized like halfway through the first season what they had, and made like a different move for it. And it's like really apparent in that second half of the first season, and then just like goes into like so many like hilarious and like depressing and just emotional things that, and thoughtful like ideas just
so it's
covered.
It's deeper than just being an absurdist comedy.
Oh my god, like it is the most thoughtful, like best show I've ever seen.
No
period.
kidding.
Live action cartoon. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's high praise. I might have to give it a try.
Inspiration, baby.
I like it. Thing number 3 usually for people is the hardest, and I don't know why. Just tell me something stupid.
Well, yeah.
A dumb thought you did, a thought or something stupid you did, something embarrassing. It could be about you or Kiki or anybody else. I mean, just something. I mean, I am pretty base in my intellect, so I typically go to potty humor and stuff. Nose picking jokes, whatever comes to mind.
Man,
the grosser the better too. So,
man, that's a tough one. Here you go. So I was having knee problems recently.
Yeah.
And went on for like, I mean, I've had knee problems my whole life, but they kind of come and go and whatever. But this wasn't going away with my right knee like a couple months ago. It was really painful going downstairs and stuff, especially. And so I was at a little gathering a few weeks back and took a recommendation from one of Lana's dancers to go to an acupuncturist. Okay. And so this guy, and I've never been to an acupuncturist. I've never had a chiropractor or a massage. Like, I don't like other people touching my body.
Yep.
And so, but I was at a point where I was like, I don't know, like I got to do something, and like, um, and I kind of wanted to try acupuncture, but like didn't wasn't gonna go out and find some random person. So the fact that somebody like recommended it to me,
Yeah.
all right, fine. So this guy comes in, house call, and like I expect for him to just like stick a couple needles in, like whatever, like take him out, everything's calm. I don't know, maybe some like like calm music going on or something.
In burning incense, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like, dude, this guy, he had like what looked like a glue gun, kind of, but it
Okay.
was a needle at the end of it. So and it was about maybe that long, the needle, and like he would take it, and he went from the tip of my head right here, like down my back, all the way like around my hip, on the inside of my leg, wrapped around to the tip of my toe, all on the right side there. He's like, everything's connected, blah blah blah, whatever, and like, so I'm like, all right, cool, and he starts doing it. It starts like going pretty good, but then like I realized that what he's doing, he's like putting holes in me with that gun, like like those are all holes, like make like whatever 100 holes, and then he'd stick cupping,
Like the hot
cupping.
cup where it sucks your skin into the cup.
Right. So he did that after he poked holes in me.
Oh,
So like sucked blood out
okay.
of those holes, and like, and it was like dark and thick, and like he kept showing me the blood and kept going, this is terrible, this is inflammation, like blah blah blah, and like I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah. And eventually, like, I was on my back at one point, and then he's like, all right, now we do the deep needle. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I didn't see it. I didn't know what he was like, what the utensil looked like that he was using. And he started kind of on my ass, and it felt like this guy took like a cat of nine tails and was like standing behind me and like whoosh, whoosh, like whipping my shit out of me. And like every time he did it, and all it was like a pen-sized cylinder about that big around it with like a button on top, and he'd press it, and that's when like the deep needle would come in, and it was so fucking painful. And so every time he did it, I was just screaming like, ah, 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 like literally I could not control like my like scream, at all. Whereas with the smaller one, like I could sort of like whatever, but like it was just completely involuntary. Like could not control, and so eventually, after about an hour and 45 minutes, told me to get up, like do some squats, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a lot better. He's like, does it hurt anywhere? He's like, just tell me. I'm like, yeah, I still have a little bit of pain in my knee here. And he's like, all right, get back on the table. Takes the deep needle, fucking hits my knee, like, and like, oh, like just in so much pain, but like haven't had a problem with it since. My back is a little bit like, I feel like he kind of moved it around and did some stuff, and I'm still not feeling like quite right there, but he did say I need one more session, and then like after that maybe like once a year type of thing. But like to see like those cups and like the blood coming out, it was like, what am I doing? Like this is stupid.
But are you a convert now? Are you a believer in whatever he was doing?
I am to a certain point. Like I want to do it again, and like and see if like everything will get in harmony, I guess, after another session, because like again, I've never done it before. Like I know other people that have, and they go to do this regularly, so like I think there is something to it, to like having it done regularly, but it's also like different, obviously, from traditional medicine. So
do you have any like professional medical opinions about what's actually wrong with your knee? No idea. Like actually, like it could be torn meniscus, it could be a torn ligament, it could be any number of those types of things that could be medically repaired.
It's not that drastic.
No.
You know, like, I mean, I wouldn't be able to walk if it was that sort of thing, I would think. But I don't know, to your point. And, but also, like, the best part of it was he kept telling me, don't ever go to a doctor. I was like, all right, I don't, it's fine. He's like, if you think you need to call 911, call me. I'm like, all right. Like,
wow.
whatever, man.
That's quite the responsibility he's taking on.
Yeah.
Does he? I assume he's got some sort of insurance, right? It's to cover.
I actually didn't ask his story. What he was Korean, from South Korea, and the story that he told me was that when he was 6 years old, his mom had a lot of pain, and his brother had started acupuncture at that point, and that was when he first learned to do needles. At 6 years old, has been doing it ever since.
Wow.
He calls himself the pain doctor.
The pain doctor. Are we giving him a plug? Not that anybody is going to hear this that could potentially hire him, but
you're in LA. I'll get you the number.
The pain doctor.
Yeah.
Cool. Listeners, get in touch with me. I can get in touch with Cody. We can hook you up with the pain doctor if you can't find him on your own. There is the internet, so I would imagine he's findable somehow. Dude, I can't believe you answered and hung out with me this long. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to put it out tomorrow. I'll tag you in it on Facebook. Feel free to share it with all of your thousands of fans or whoever you know on Facebook, or don't. That's completely up to you. But this had two purposes for me. One, podcast content. Absolutely shamelessly looking for that. And two, I'm honestly curious about what you do for a living, and I think I could literally talk to you about that for hours. It's really something that's always interested me. So, thank you, man.
Well, thanks for the call, and yeah, keep on keeping on, bro.
Right on. So there you go. That was Cody Osbourne, younger brother to my girlfriend, Kiki Osbourne. And that was a fun chat. Totally enjoyed talking with him. Totally enjoyed springing it on him, just calling him out of the blue and seeing if he would answer at 6 o'clock his time in L.A. And he did. And he really does look like Jesus. Like, you know, blonde hair, big, thick beard, handsome Jesus. That's what he looks like. So he's a pretty cool dude. Enjoyed talking with him. Hope you enjoyed listening to it. We'll be back next week with who knows what. I haven't recorded it. Haven't figured it out. We'll figure it out Monday night next week. You'll get to hear it Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening to Three Things with JR. Over and out.
It's a brand new day. It's a brand